I'll never forget the night I met David at Comic-Con. What started as an exciting weekend, surrounded by fellow fans and creators, quickly turned into the most terrifying experience of my life. It was Saturday night, and my friends and I had been having a great time. We were staying in a nice hotel near the convention center, sharing a suite. The energy from the convention was electric. People dressed in their favorite costumes, the latest comic releases being displayed, and everyone seemed to be having the time of their lives. After a day of exploring panels and shopping for rare comics, I decided to head down to the exhibition hall by myself for some quiet time, away from the crowd. That's when I first met David. He seemed like any other Comic-Con attendee, wearing a worn Batman t-shirt and a lanyard full of convention badges. He had a friendly face, maybe in his mid-20s, and approached me with a huge smile, eager to talk about the latest superhero series. I didn't think much of it at first. We chatted casually for a while, discussing comics and upcoming movie releases. He asked me about my favorite characters, my favorite booths at the convention, but I kept things light, not giving away much personal information. I didn't even tell him my real name. When our conversation drifted toward his fascination with darker, horror-based comics, I started to feel a little uneasy. There was something in the way he talked about the violence in those comics, the excitement in his voice when he described the villains, that made me uncomfortable. But I brushed it off. After all, it was Comic-Con, and people liked all kinds of genres. Later that evening, back in the hotel suite with my friends, I felt relieved. We laughed, drank a bit, and shared stories of our favorite moments from the day. I had almost forgotten about David. That's when the knock on the door came. It was David. I was surprised, and my heart raced a little. How had he found my room? I had never told him where I was staying. He must have seen me earlier when I came back from the exhibition hall. He smiled as though nothing was wrong, asking if I wanted to go for a walk. I should have said no. Every part of me told me to decline, but maybe it was the drinks. Maybe it was the fact that we were at a convention full of people, but I agreed. As we walked through the hotel corridors, I immediately sensed something was off. The hallway was quieter than usual, eerily quiet. The buzz of excitement from the convention felt miles away. David's behavior had shifted too. He wasn't the cheerful fan I had met earlier. His demeanor was darker, his tone more serious. He started talking about one of his favorite comic books again, but this time, it was a disturbing, horror-themed story. He described it in vivid detail, focusing on the violent scenes, how the killer in the comic would stalk his victims, how their fear would grow as they realized they couldn't escape. I felt a shiver run down my spine. Then, David shifted the conversation to true crime. He talked about real-life murders with an almost obsessive interest, describing how some killers were never caught, how they blended into everyday life. My discomfort grew into fear. I realized how isolated we were. The hallways were empty. The hotel staff had long since retired for the night. I mumbled something about needing to head back to my room, but David didn't seem to hear me. He had this intense look in his eyes now, as if he was enjoying my unease. That's when things escalated. Without warning, he grabbed my arm. At first, I froze, unsure of what was happening. His grip tightened, and he started pulling me toward the staff elevator at the end of the hallway. I panicked, my heart pounding so loudly I could barely hear anything else. I tried to pull away, but his grip was strong, too strong. He kept his eyes on me the whole time, his expression unreadable. Fear coursed through my veins as I struggled to break free. I called out, my voice shaky at first, but then louder, screaming for help. David's calm exterior cracked for a second, a flash of frustration crossing his face as he tightened his hold, dragging me closer to the elevator. I kicked at him, adrenaline giving me the strength I didn't know I had. My mind raced with thoughts of how this could end. How had I ended up in this situation? This was supposed to be a safe space, a celebration of fandom and creativity, not a place where nightmares came true. Suddenly, out of nowhere, I heard voices, laughter echoing from the other end of the hall. A group of girls dressed in cosplay were coming around the corner. They spotted us instantly, and I screamed again, louder this time. They rushed over, their cheerful faces shifting to concern. David let go of my arm, his expression quickly changing to one of nonchalance, as if nothing had happened. Without saying a word, he disappeared down the hallway, slipping into the shadows of the convention. The girls surrounded me, asking what had happened. I could barely get the words out. My hands were shaking, and I felt like I was going to be sick. They stayed with me, comforting me, as I told them everything. One of them immediately called hotel security, and I reported the incident. David was nowhere to be found by the time they arrived. They searched the hotel, but he had vanished. I was left shaken, my mind replaying the entire ordeal over and over again. That night taught me a powerful lesson. Trust your instincts. No matter how safe a place might seem, danger can always be lurking in the shadows, disguised as a friendly face.